All right, 2023 is just around the corner. I know a lot of you guys are going to be getting your Valorant experience on for the first time. I know the first thing a lot of you guys are going to be doing when you're launching Valorant for the first time or the first time on a new part is going to be looking for the best settings for Valorant. And that's what I'm going to bring you guys in today's video, the best Valorant settings for 2023 for both FPS and quality. Personally, for me, I like a good balance between the most FPS and the most quality that I can get. And I've completely tailored my settings in my Valorant game to do so. And I know a lot of you guys are wanting those settings. So in this video today, I'm going to give you guys the best settings for FPS and quality in Valorant in 2023. So let's just go through every tab. If you guys want to skip to one ahead, there's going to be chapters down on the timeline below. If you guys can just skip to whatever settings you guys want to change, or just watch the whole thing, because I'd really appreciate that as well. Text, obviously English. Enemy highlight color, I've always really kept on yellow because I've found that to just be the most popping color for me in my eyes. Going into my sensitivity, I have actually just recently switched to 1600 DPI, and I'm going at 0.232. So you guys might be wondering why that's a low sense. My DPI is actually 1600, so it's actually pretty high. I think it's on like the more high to medium high side of a sensitivity. I've actually just kind of wanted to go more wrist aim, but that's what I'm rocking at, 0.232. Scope sense and ADS sensitivity, I always keep just multiplied exactly as the sense is, so I'm just used to that. Invert mouse obviously off because I don't want it to go right when I'm turning left. It's not cars. Raw input buffer I want on. This also just makes your mouse movement smoother in general. I don't believe it adds any input delay or anything. I've never really felt anything. It's honestly, I've tried it off and I've tried it on over the years, and it has just proved to be the smoothest. My aim feels really nice. I always keep my map on rotate because I always like to just immediately, when I'm opening caps, to look at the map, I like to always just check and be able to know exactly where I'm aligned. Okay, I just decided to go into a game to explain this a little bit better because there's some of these settings that I want to show you guys that I have to be in game for. But the reason I go rotate is just so any way my character is lined up, I can have the map being rotated, and it's a lot easier for me to, if I need to pull up the map, it's just easier for me to line up because I'm already facing this direction, so I can easily just go ping like somewhere on cat instead of having to open it if it's fixed and then try to align myself and then actually find it. So, and then my next setting is just keep player centered. I always keep that off, and that's because I want to be able to see this whole map, and I like to have a larger map on the actual screen up here. So just having keep player centered off just allows the map to stay in the center of the map, as you can see the whole entire map, so I can see whatever's going on. I can see what my teammates are seeing over in their respective areas. And my minimap size and minimap zoom, I kind of just tweak here and there because some maps are bigger than others, but it generally stays around like this 850 and like 1 to 0.9 range on my zoom and size. So you do whatever is best for you, but that's just how I found mine to be the best. And I always make sure to also have the minimap vision cones on so you can see what your teammates are looking at, what they can potentially see. I always keep the map region names off just because it's just less clutter on the screen. But if you're newer to the game and you don't know the regions of each map, definitely keep it on, or just keep it on in buy phase if you need to just familiarize yourself with parts of the map during that buy phase. But I just keep them off because I've known the maps. Not much to say for privacy, but this is complete personal preference for you guys. If you guys want to go like streamer mode, you can turn all these on, basically block friend requests and everything. I just keep it all off for the best stream and video experience. So stream snipe me if you guys want. Now going into the other and the most asked setting I feel like that I get, other than my crosshairs, like why my first person handedness is actually in the left. You guys might not have noticed that till I just mentioned it, but my gun is actually on the left side of the screen. I have a whole entire video, actually a couple videos explaining this reasoning, and I'll link it in the card in the top right of the screen right now. If you guys want to go click on that and watch it, it just explains my eye dominance, my ocular dominance. So if you guys want to figure out your ocular dominance and see if you want to switch your gun side, it doesn't really even need to be based on your ocular dominance. It's just a super sweaty thing you can do. If you want to switch it up as well, you can just click this to the right, to the left. But if you want the reasonings as to why, go check out that video. Moving on to always show inventory, I keep that off as well as the player loadouts. And this is just, again, less clutter on the screen. I keep show mature content on, obviously, because blood and corpses will be on, I believe, by default. I keep corpses off, but I keep blood on just because if you ding someone behind a wall, you can see the blood splatter up. But I know there is another animation if you do ding someone through a wall. So this is completely up to you if you want blood or not. I know some regions actually will not have this setting at all. So if you're like OCE or something else, I don't think you'll even have the show blood setting. My dog is crying in the background. But if you guys didn't notice, if you have mature content off, it actually won't show any of those settings. So make sure that's on, then you can kind of mess with them if you like. But I keep corpses off. It's just less clutter on the map, and it won't block any vision or anything if you're on a lower elevation or something like that. So network buffering minimum. If you guys are having like a laggier internet or a higher ping, I would keep this obviously moderate or maximum depending how much ping or like latency you're at. But I keep it at minimum because I'm usually chilling around like 25-30 ping. Bullet tracers I keep on just because I just want to see where my spray is going, but I know there's a couple of videos out there of like pros turning them off so they can focus on, you know, their recoil or something better. I personally keep them on. Again, this is a completely subjective thing. It's not going to really change anything. It's just kind of based on what you focus on. So I like to focus on the tracers themselves and just see where they're going. All of these, the rest of these settings really don't matter at all. So we're just going to kind of skip over these. But the last one I want to touch on in the general tab is the show spectator count. I keep this off. I personally keep it off, not only because there's less clutter on the screen. It's just also sometimes when you're in those clutch situations and you check the top right of your screen, you see there's 4 people watching you and you get a little nervous. And it's just one less thing to have in the back of your mind when you're in a clutch situation or something. Or so just not even having the idea of someone even watching you, it might help you out. So try that out. If you're a little bit nervous in clutch situations, just turn that off to not even realize that anyone's watching you. Moving on to my controls. Feel free to take these controls if you guys are newer to keyboard mouse, or just completely do your own, whatever's comfy for you. But this is what I've been using for forever, for the past like 3 years this game's been out. My 1, 2, and 3 and ultimate abilities are X, Z, V, and C. That's just what's easiest for me, but you guys do whatever you want. I know some people will use mouse buttons for dual bind or something like that, but again, you do whatever is most comfy for you. Obviously, I use WASD for my movement buttons. I also want my default movement to be running. I don't know why you would never want to be moving at the fastest pace possible in a game, and I prefer to not have toggle walk, so I'm not stuck walking and I can just walk around a corner if I need to be a little bit more sneaky, obviously. So if I go from running to walking, I just want to be able to hold it as I'm going around a corner that I can easily let go and swing on someone if I need to. Now this jump setting might be a little bit different to what some of you guys are used to, but I always use mouse wheel down for jumping in games like this where you can kind of like hop around. I find it just a lot comfier. You can have all your movement and swaying on one hand while the WASD is on the other. You don't have to hit spacebar or anything. Just try it out. It's actually really comfy when you get used to it, but I know some people actually do not like it. But it's a lot easier to just flick your mouse wheel down. It's a lot more comfy to have all that strafing movement on one hand. And then I have it double bound to spacebar, specifically if I'm ever using Jet, so I can glide if I need to. So if you hold spacebar with Jet, her passive ability is just to like kind of hover and slowly fall to the ground. Crouch, I always keep set on left control. Obviously, going into the equipment tab, everything's pretty much default here bind wise, except I do have my ADS on toggle, my sniper rifle on toggle as well, and then the operator zoom is cycle, and auto re-enter scope is on. And for these sniper and like scoping settings, I want them all as much like Counter-Strike as possible, because a lot of us that are playing Valorant are coming from Counter-Strike, and just when I'm using the operator, I want to have the same feel as I was using the op basically in CS. So, and then reload is obviously R. And then we're going into the equipment binds as well. So my primary is 1, secondary 2, melee is 3, and the spike is B for me. And I don't really remember what this is default. It might be B, but again, I'm used to that from Counter-Strike, so I'm always pressing and pulling up the bomb with B if I do have it, if I need to. And if you guys are going to be binding your mouse wheel down to jump, you're going to have a conflicting bind with these cycle to next and previous weapons. I immediately just take them away because I only am pressing 1, 2, and 3 to switch to guns basically. So I always immediately take these out because you don't want to be scrolling and accidentally switch your weapon in the middle of a fight. My drop is on G. I don't know if that's defaulted, but it's just what I'm comfy with, and I've always used that for games to drop things. And then like I said before, I always have my equip last used weapon on Q. So if I need to, like if I'm shooting it up, I can press Q twice and it'll reset. That's also another Counter-Strike habit, but you can also just sit here and spam Q to just like pull out your knife, I don't know, do something. And then to coincide with that equip last used, I have the auto equip prioritize set to most recently equipped, which is again your last used weapon basically. And then I just leave this don't auto equip melee set to off. And then for this interaction category in equipment, my inspect weapon is on T, again just what I'm used to from before in Counter-Strike. And then use is on F for me, and then use spike as well is also on F. I think a lot of people will have E maybe bound to use spike, but I actually double bind it to 4 in case, literally for one specific situation where you're on icebox and someone plans or you need to defuse next to a zipline. I also have it on 4, so I do not have to clip onto the zipline to do so. And then my spray is on M. Really doesn't matter. You guys do whatever button. It's the most out of the way random button that I can hit, but it's really addicting to hit everywhere as you're rotating. That's like the default thing people do. When they're rotating, they just hit a spray and a knife and then they run. Going into the communication tab, most of this is completely default, but the actual things that I switch, I will touch on here. My party push to talk is left alt. My team voice is on one of my thumb mouse buttons. I have my mute alt key bound to L, so if my teammates are being freaking annoying or they're talking my backswing or something like that and I just need to mute everyone, I can just quickly hit L and it will mute everyone in a clutch situation. And then I think the only other things I have switched in this communication tab are my ping, which is set to Y. And then my social radio command menu is just set to 6, and that's literally just a meme with people through
Salamat, thanks.
like that.
Nice job.
You can just go back and forth.
Yep.
Little conversations between the agents. So just easiest for me to hit 6 for some reason.
Nope.
Moving on to interface, there's a couple settings here that are pretty important. And I think the most important one that I really change is Open Armory. I think this is set to B by default. Like for the buy menu, it's B. You guys bind that to whatever's most comfy. And then I always keep my map on hold, and that's just stuck to caps lock. I think that's defaulted. And show scoreboard obviously is on tab. That's like everyone's default bind, I feel like, for the scoreboard or like an inventory. But again, this is all completely subjective, not really going to change your gameplay at all. It's just whatever is most comfy for you. Same with all these observer settings. Doesn't really matter at all, and I have none of those changed whatsoever. Now moving into the meat of the video, a lot of you guys are probably clicking on this video to find out like crosshair or video settings, so we're going to get into crosshair and then do the rest really quick. This is the crosshair I've been using lately. It is the Iridium. I will have the link to it down in the description below. There is actually the code for this. You can just import it here. As you can see, it's just a default dot, but there's a little bit of firing error when you start spraying. Same with the Phantom. It's just a lot easier to make sure you're bursting correctly and resetting your spray before shooting again. So if you guys want this crosshair, it's a really good dot crosshair. I would highly recommend trying it out. It's the code to it is down in the description below, and I'll also paste the link to the video explaining a little bit more in depth on this crosshair as well and why I use it. But I would highly recommend switching off of the default crosshair no matter what. So if you guys are newer to Valorant, definitely grab a crosshair that is not the default one. It's super ugly and it really doesn't do much for your aim in general. So moving into video general settings, and then we'll get into graphics quality. Which is probably why most of you guys are here watching this video. Obviously set your monitor and your res to whatever monitor you're using. If you guys are newer to PC and this is like your first PC for Valorant for like Christmas or something, or starting the new year, always keep your display mode in full screen if you can, because if you have windowed full screen or windowed, it's gonna have a little bit lower FPS for you. It might be a little bit input lag, but full screen is gonna have the game run at the best hertz possible for your monitor and just the best FPS possible as well. I have all my limit FPSs set to off except for the limit FPS, which is set to 300. I'll actually switch this on and off occasionally. I've heard here and there that just maxing it and capping it is actually going to make it run a little bit smoother in general, but sometimes I'll turn it off because right now I'm obviously in a private match, but I'm getting 300 FPS exactly, and if I turn it off, I get to about literally like 550 to 600. Sometimes I'll turn it off if I want to experiment with more FPS and just see how it runs. Again, teach their own, obviously, to whatever PC that you guys do have and what graphics card you ripping. Also, Valorant is mainly a CPU intensive game also, and in this PC I have an i7-9700K. It's actually kind of lower compared to the GPU that I do have, so if I did upgrade that, I would get a lot more FPS in my opinion. Play around with this according to your PC setup, and same with the NVIDIA Reflex low latency. And I believe in my last settings video I talked about how if you set this to on, you should have an RTX card in your PC, and if you have it set to on plus boost, you should have a GTX card. I actually experimented with it a little bit, and I found that having it on plus boost with my 3060 Ti gave me a little bit more FPS than having it on, which is kind of a go figure thing because it's literally boosting it. Moving on into the graphics quality tab, this is where I pretty much get all the FPS and quality settings dialed in. So I like to have the best looking game possible basically while running the best possibly. So starting from the top, just easy one to get out, you obviously want multi-threaded rendering on, and then going into all the quality settings, I have all these on low. And if you'll see the difference here, Valorant looks pretty good in all low settings. I actually like the simplicity of everything on all low settings, but if I were to turn everything on high, obviously it brings out all the detail in the map, and it looks really good. But I think it's just a little bit too distracting in my opinion, just for how sweaty of a gamer I am, I guess. I just prefer the low settings just for less going on the map. It's easier for me to focus on my crosshair. But again, Valorant in general looks pretty good on low settings. Like it really does. The thing that matters most to me is how my skins look as well, and all low settings really does not change anything on the skin side, as you guys can see. And I will get to what settings are actually going to affect your skins here in just a second. I have vignette and VSync off. The vignette obviously just puts a little bit of a darker edge around the border of your screen, and I keep that off. I've always had VSync off because it locks your FPS to your monitor's refresh rate. I'm not so sure about like G-Sync or FreeSync or anything. VSync I just keep off. Don't want any possibility of input lag in this game, so I keep that off as well. So the settings that are gonna kind of affect your skins the most are gonna be the anti-aliasing and the anisotropic filtering, as well as the bloom down here, which I'll get to in just a sec. But I always keep my anti-aliasing just also for the map in general. I keep my anti-aliasing right in the middle of 2x and FXAA, and that's because I just don't want the map to be too jagged around me. as well as just having no anti-aliasing at all. If you guys experiment with this in your own game, you'll see that it makes the map around you super jagged on edges, and that's the point of anti-aliasing. It smooths edges, but if you have it a little bit too smooth, like over on FXAA, it'll make it just kind of a little bit blurry at range for you. So I keep it right in the middle at MSA 4X. I found it's a good balance between not too jagged, but also not too smooth and blurry at range. Also with anisotropic filtering, this will affect your skins just slightly, very slightly, depending on the skin. There's also some settings you can do in your graphics card settings as well to smooth out your skins as well, which I'll touch on really quick before I go into the next one. So if you go right click on your desktop and hit NVIDIA control panel, you're going to want to go into your 3D settings tab if you have it, and then just go to adjust image settings with preview. And if you guys want your skins to be a little bit smoother and less jagged, you're going to want to have this set to quality. So this is what I found actually affects your skins kind of the most in the game. So if you want them really smooth, I would go to quality. If you really just want the most FPS possible and you don't really care about how your skins look, just put this on performance, or you can go somewhere in the middle of balance, but I keep it on quality just because I can kind of get away with it with my GPU. Improved clarity I have on as well. I haven't noticed much of a FPS hit at all from this, and just kind of makes the game look a little bit more clear as well. Same with experimental sharpening. You guys can see this just looks a lot more muted. You might need to do it on your own game to see the real difference versus just seeing it on my video, but experimental sharpening will just again sharpen those edges a little bit more. Going into another setting that's going to affect your skins is going to be bloom. So if I pull out a skin with a little bit of brightness like this RGX, you can see when it like pulls out the animation, it blooms that light on the skin itself. But if I were to turn off bloom and do that same thing, you can see there is no bloom of the light coming out of the skin. It's just going to make it a little bit more muted and less fun. And we all want fun skins. We want to get our money's worth from these skins. So if you want it to look the best, then I keep bloom on. Distortion I keep on as well. Distortion is gonna show things like explosions and just like a little bit more effects when those things are happening. And if you hover over this, you can just see that orbs, explosions, and some agent abilities use this, and it's just another visual effect to coincide with those abilities being used. And then shadows I keep on just to bring the game to life a little bit more and just help things not seem too flat, because I am on all low settings, which keeps it pretty flat in general. Going into the stats, this is all up to you of what you want to see, but for the least clutter and the most information that I really want, it's just my FPS and the tick rate of the server, and then my ping as well. That's all I have on, as you can see in the top left here. Audio settings, nothing is really changed, except out of the audio settings, I think the most important thing you guys should turn on is HRTF. This just makes footsteps and gun sounds and everything around you so much more realistic, and you can pinpoint exactly where someone is according to the map. It might sound weird to you at first if you don't have this on already, but I would highly recommend turning it on because sound cues are so important in this game. This voice chat tab, completely up to you. Obviously you keep your binds to whatever you want. I'd recommend keeping push to talk on so you don't annoy your teammates. And then all of these voiceover settings are completely default as well. Now, finally, what I want to get to before I end the actual video is just how my colors are so bright. I'm sure a lot of you guys are coming here for the first time and you're noticing how bright and vivid my colors are. And I'm going to do a quick little tutorial on how you can change those and brighten your colors as well. I actually have a full tutorial of this on my YouTube as well. If you want to click that, it'll be in the top right of the screen right now as well. But this is the quick and simple, easy way to do it. So really no need to go check that out if you don't want to. But we're going to go and right click like you just saw. Open NVIDIA control panel one more time. And then instead of staying in these 3D settings here, we're going to go down to the display tab. Then you're going to click adjust desktop color settings. Then you want to select the monitor that your Valorant is on. And all you want to do is just scroll down till you see digital vibrance, and then it should be 50% by default. I just like to keep mine at 75. I think 75 is a good medium between being too blown out at 100 versus too dim down at 50. So 75 is like the perfect number for me. So, and then you're chilling. You should have boosted colors on all of your games and just your monitor in general. I believe there is a way to do it on an AMD card, but I'm not 100% sure. If you guys do have a way to do that, please put it in the comments below. But if you're on an AMD card or on a laptop and you don't have these settings for your NVIDIA card, you can just get something called Vibrance GUI, which basically is just a third-party program that you can download to boost your colors on your monitor in general. So I hope those settings help you guys out if you're just getting Valorant for the first time or upgrading your PC over the holiday season and into the new year. So if this video did help you guys out, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, and the notification bell. See you guys all in the next video. And on that note, ta-ta for now.